Few years back, I published a video, first production ready microservice. You guys loved it. I got real good comments and feedback about that video. And after that, I published an entire course regarding the microservices and how we can do things with the industry standard practices. You guys loved it because I got certain comments saying you got new jobs because of that. You passed interviews, you cracked interviews because of that video series. And some comments are real heart touching. Good, thank you. Today, I'm going to do a similar video regarding serverless, how we can do a production grade serverless API. So why I'm doing something like this? Because most of YouTube videos available out there, they're just focusing on delivering content. I mean, they're teaching something to you. I'm not criticizing them. What I'm saying, what they're trying to do is they're going to teach how to do certain things. But they don't teach how these things we can do in a production, because most of the things what we do in those videos you can do on a production, especially how to handle those parameters, how to do certain configuration. You can do those in a production. I mean, we shouldn't do that in that way. So there is no place where you to learn real production things, how we can do these things in a real production environment. So today I'm going to show you how you can create a production grade microservice using serverless framework, right? And this is not to teach serverless from the beginning. I have many videos where I discuss about serverless and how to create a serverless project and everything, right? What is serverless framework? We discuss everything there. So this is, I'm going to start how to create a production grade serverless API. So, and I understand one thing. That is, YouTube is not a right ground to do a complete course in a straight, because you may miss certain videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach one at a time, right? Today I'm going to create this production ready microservice, and then in the upcoming videos I'm going to integrate with certain other services and do real production things and encryption and key management, those kind of a thing in a production grade, what is the AWS recommended way to do it. And I want to tell this too. There is no right or wrong way to do anything, right? Because enterprise is architecture. Architecture means you can customize it. So there is no exact right. This is how you must do it. It's all depend on how architect wants to do it, and based on architect experience and things he has faced, and so many things depend how certain system design. So therefore, I'm not saying what I am doing is the exact way you should do, right? I'm not saying what I'm doing, how I'm doing is not the exact industry practice. So what I'm saying, this is my opinion, this is how I am doing it. So if you're an architect and you can take this idea and you can put your experience and you can do that, and you can comment improvements, what you can see, what else you can do, you can comment so other people also can learn. If you're not an architect, if you're an engineer or a tech lead or someone, when you work with your architect, you can discuss this concept. Okay, I saw one guy doing like this. What do you think about it? If he says stupid, he's wrong or something like that, it's fine, right? Just move on with because he's your architect. So therefore, this is just an opinion. This is how I do it. I'm not saying this is exact industry standard to do it. Okay. So as I said, I'm not going to teach you to create a serverless project and everything, because there's one video we did first API deployment using serverless. So today I'm doing certain things which I already discussed in this video without explaining. So you can go back and watch that video before you come here, so you can get a better idea what I'm doing. All right. So let's get started. And first, so we are going to create employee service. So let's open the project on Visual Studio Code. Right, so this is the startup project we get. It's a template. We didn't add anything yet. The first thing we should do is we need to install all these dependencies, right? Whatever it comes with out of the box, we need to install those dependencies. Let's do that. So I'm going to install npm i. Cool. So now we need one more package which is not here, which is serverless offline. We discussed this in the last video. So npm I minus D, because this is a development dependency, serverless offline. At meantime, I can add this to serverless config. Here, you should add next one, serverless offline. Right, so now we installed everything. So now we can see whether everything is ready to run. So it's always good before you start, you run this command and see whether everything is fine, because sometime you may have some version conflict. You may use a different serverless version. Right, it says it's ready on the port 3000 and a dev hello is the endpoint. It's always good you do this before you do anything else, because you need to make sure whatever the out of the box template don't have any errors or anything, your dependencies and everything is fine. Because if you get some error after this, you know it's error, that is the error you introduced, but not the error came up with your template. I mean, now you will think, how can a template has errors? No, templates don't have errors, but maybe you using serverless old version, maybe your AWS SDK is not set up. There can be so many things goes wrong. So therefore, always best practice, just see whether this is running, right? Okay, cool. So now I'm fine with this one. So now let's go through this file and add our configurations. So let's go from the beginning so we can replace this later. So let me to get this good space. So here you have plugins, that is fine. Then we have a provider name and the runtime, that is fine. So now we can add the stage here, right? The stage mean what is the default stage this is going to deploy. Okay, so if you know about the API gateway, you can deploy in the multiple API stages. There you can say dev, QA, UAT, prod, version 1, version 2, whatever this thing. So that is the stage what we are referring here. If you not specify the stage, it will by default deploy to the dev. And after stage, you can set up a profile. The profile mean, we discussed this in detail. In order to deploy this, you need to have an AWS account with the administrative access, right? And then you can configure that on your as AWS profile using AWS configure command. And you need to tell what is the profile name you are doing here. So I have multiple profiles because in my projects and other things what I do. So therefore, I'm going to specify here my AWS personal profile. So that links to my personal account. When we deploy, it will deploy my personal account. And then you need to have a stack name. So why you need to have a stack name? Because how this works is this because this is TypeScript, right? What the template we use is TypeScript. So when you deploy this, it will compile into the JavaScript and it create the CloudFormation script, and then it upload this to a S3 bucket, right? And then this CloudFormation script will go to the CloudFormation. So CloudFormation understand things as a stack, right? If you're not given a stack name, then it will create a kind of a default random name stack. I mean, not the random name, but combining all those things, it may not make sense to you. It's always good when you work on a project, you name things based on your naming convention, right? It's always good practice. Always it's good practice, because then when you want to search something, when you see the billings, when you see anything, any configuration or anything, you know exactly the naming convention, right? So this is my stack, right? This is this project stack, because when you have AWS account, it's not one API, right? You may deploy 50, 60, 100 APIs into your account, right? So if you're deploying 50 APIs, you're having a 50 stacks, right? In that case, naming your stack based on your stage and your API name is so important. Then you can recognize what is what. So the stack name is, so I'm saying my service name, that means employee service / stack / dev, right? So it says employee service dev stack, okay? And you can define an API name, right? So this is also again same, because this go deploy into the API gateway. When you go to the API gateway, you may have list like hundreds or 200 APIs, right? So this is also important, because when you deploy this, it will create an API on your API gateway. So you may have hundreds of APIs, and to recognize what is your API and everything, it's always good to follow the naming convention. So this next one is a region, and the region I'm going to deploy is US West 2, right? That's Oregon. So I like that region. No special reason, but I am going to deploy there. Okay. So here I forgot to tell something. When you name something like this, it's referring the variable. So for example, self-service mean this one, employee service, right? SLS stage mean what is the stage of this current deployment, right? So you can use these variables. This will evaluate these variables and get the name. For example, this will evaluate as a employee service stack dev, employee service dev. API name would be employee service dev, something like that. Okay. And then I'm going to change the timeout to 30, and also I'm going to change the memory size to 1024, right? So this means every time when you run this API, it will get 1 GB memory allocated, right? Keep in mind, Lambda functions always build based on the number of memory, the amount of memories you are using and the CPU time, right? So therefore, if you don't need 1 GB, just reduce it as much as you need, like 128 MB, 256 MB, depends on that, because by adjusting this, you can change the your billing, okay? And endpoint type is, I'm going to deploy this as a regional endpoint. So this is again depend on how you want to deploy. If you want to have a private APIs, we may discuss in future, and you can set to the private, but this is a regional API what I'm going to deploy now, right? And we can add more features later. And here in the API gateway, I'm going to use API keys. So why API keys? Because we are going to discuss on like multiple authentication and authorization systems you can use for your APIs, how you can secure your APIs. But before you go there, you can do the simplest way you can do is have API key. When you have API key, every request comes need to accompany the API key in the header. Otherwise, it will it will not authorize to access, right? So I'm going to say I need the API key. Right, I need one API key here, right? That's again API name and the stage / API key, okay? And then if you need any environment variable, you can set here. These are the environment variable space. You can, if you need any environment variable, you can define it here. But for now, I don't need any environment variable. So we are going to change this one, right? And then, so this section is, if you need any custom properties in your project, you can use that. For example, when you have an API, we discussed something called cause, right? If you don't remember that, just go and watch that video about the cause and what is the cause and how we configure the cause. We are going to configure the cause in like soon in this API. And here, we need to have certain headers to whitelist on the cause, right? Remember, allowed headers, right? So see, everything is changed, right? If you didn't watch that video, you can understand this video, right? Yeah, you can think it's just a marketing trick, but I'm not. What I do is I teach certain things then and there, so we can put it as a chain and learn everything together. Okay, so if you don't remember the course, or if you don't know the course, go back and watch that video. So here we can use as a custom property, right? Then I will show you how we can refer these properties, right? Okay, so this way, this is the functions, right? So now in your API, for example, this API is employee API. So we have a create, update, read, delete, all those APIs list, and maybe multiple. Maybe you have 10 endpoints, right? So if you go in this way, this file will be cluttered because you have all those endpoints here, right? The list, import every single API and then refer. So it's kind of a bad. So I don't like that, something like that in the production project. So what I usually do is I go here and I change this file something like this, right? I'm going to import, we are going to delete this endpoint, right? So I'm going to import this, and then I'm going to say const functions equal hello, right? And I'm going to export functions, right? You can export default if you want. Let's do the default because there's only one we export, right? Functions. And then you can come here and you can import functions, right, from index, okay? And here you can refer the functions. So that way, even though you may have hundreds of functions, that, I mean, you don't get the 100 function in the one API, but even though you have, doesn't matter, this section will not get cluttered. Okay, and this is pretty much it, what you need on a simple API. And then let's say you want to create certain resources with your API, right? So then we can have a resource section here, right? Resources, and also here you can have then resources, and then you can define your resources here, like with the SNS or whatever you want, right? But the thing is, if we create the resources here, because resource need the profiles, and resource need the policies and everything, right? Resource it's a huge, right? If you create one resource, you may have like 20 line of code, sometime maybe 5, maybe 20, maybe 50, depends on the resource you're creating. If you create something like S3 bucket based on these course policies and all those things, it will be like hundreds of lines. So when you have a resource here, again it gets cluttered, right? So we don't need to do that. So what we do is, usually we create a new directory here called resources. Right, here we may create, like, depend on the resource you create. Let's say, for example, sns.ts, right? This is about the SNS resource. Okay, so here I'm going to use export default, because this is the one I'm going to create. Let's say employee create, this is my SNS topic name, right? So type is AWS SNS topic, and then I may have properties. Okay, so the topic name is, I'm going to give code labs employee create, right? And now I'm going to combine this here, the stage, self colon stage, sorry, SLS colon stage, right? Because I need to make sure if I'm deploying this in two different, like if I'm deploying multiple stages, like maybe not the dev and the QA, maybe QA you have a separate account, but sometime you may have a dev staging deployment, right? So maybe other developers consuming your services while you are modifying this. So maybe you need to create a different stage for them. So then they need a different topic, right? It's always good you attach your topic to every resource, attach your stage to every resource you create, right? Let's do this topic data, right? So this will be my SNS. So now what I'm going to do is, from here I'm going to import this one, import SNS from resources SNS, and here I'm going to copy all those here. Okay, so now I'm good, right? Now we know how we can create a topic as well. I mean, I don't need a topic, but just to show you how we can do it, I just create that topic. Okay, so now we all good. So just see SLS offline to make sure no errors. Oops, there's one error. Stage, okay. I think I did some spell mistake here. Where was that? Provide API name. Okay, here. Okay, so that's good. Let's try again. Okay, so now we are good. Okay, so now let's deploy this and see how this works. So I don't have to specify the profile because the profile is in this serverless file. I don't have to specify the stage because stage also in this serverless specification file, right? I just need to say serverless deploy. Okay, so now it says it cannot deploy. We'll see, probably unrecognized resource type AWS SNS topic. Okay, I think this should be here. Topic is simple. Let's try again. So right, it got deployed. So you can see here, it returned employee key, API key, right? So you can see the name employee service dev. Oops, I think I did something here. Service, because it says dev twice. Let's see why. Employee service and the API keys, API name. Okay, here's the problem. I have API key name here and again the stage here, right? So you don't need this one. Okay, and that's fine. So whatever it's there right now, we can fix it. Okay, so let's go back and see our AWS account, how everything is deployed. So let's go to the API gateway, and also let's go and see SNS whether is deployed our topic. Okay, so when you go to API gateway, you can see employee service dev is here, and it's very industry standard way. You have these APIs, and then if you go here, you can see stages. The dev stage is deployed, and also if you go API keys, and you can see there is a one API key we created, employee service dev API key. So that's part, right? So now we have done that. So API is correctly deployed, and if you go here SNS, and if you go to the topics, you can see here code labs employee create topic dev, right? So the this also generated, right? So there's a topic also generated. So this is the beauty of the serverless framework, because you don't have to do anything like by your hand logging into this console. You can do everything using your code, and you don't need to know anything about like any other script like a Terraform or CloudFormation. You can do most of things within your code itself, then it will do the automatically do the jobs for you. Okay, so now since I okay with this one, I'm going to remove this. So removing is SLS remove, that it will remove this one. And so what I want you to understand is, see how we have done this. Functions we separated to separate file. So in that case, our serverless configuration file will not cluttered, and also the resources we are separate to multiple files. So the good practice is, so now you create SNS here, right? If you create S3 bucket, you can create S3.ts to the S3 bucket. So in future videos, we are going to create KMS keys, and we are going to talk about what the KMS is, and then you can create the KMS.ts and everything, right? So in that case, well organized your file. So any developer who come to take this code in future, they can clearly see what you're doing and how you have done and everything, right? So in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce few endpoints, and I'm going to create a serverless database, right? And also how to connect this API to serverless database. So stay in touch, and also it's better if you can follow along, because otherwise you just watching the video will not do anything. Just get the free account and follow along with me or with this video, so then you can ask questions and then I can reply. So you know, right, I'm not usually not replying comments after 7 days. It's bad, but I have a lot of work to do. Anyway, stay safe, take care.